What's up, everyone? How's it going? How's it going, everyone? This is the Conscious Chicano just coming on here. Want to address this whole issue. Did the Mexica any kind of transatlantic voyage or traveling? Meaning, did the Mexica go across from the Americas to, say, Africa, the Middle East, or Europe? Did anybody, or vice versa, did any Africans, Europeans, Middle Easterns travel to the Americas? So I studied anthropology, and it's one thing that a lot of people who never go to school or never go to college and study anthropology and archaeology, or a lot of them who major in other fields but have no professional or no official studies in anthropology and archaeology. They right away dismiss everything the archaeologists and anthropologists say. Even some of these indigenous and even Afrocentric people, they do that as well. It's kind of like you got these New Agers, you got these Afrocentrics, you got these native centric people. What I mean by that is that there's natives out there actually disregard the evidence and the science and think that they only originate in the Americas and nowhere else. And they believe that, if anything, that they traveled to other parts of the world where there's no evidence of that. And then you got the pseudoscience of Afrocentrics and Europeans, even Middle Easterns, and even some Asians. They claim that they directly came to, say, like Mexico or the Americas, and they established their civilization and a lot of it, there's no direct evidence and proof of that. What there is evidence is that natives, including animals and natives and everything, came through Siberia and traveled all the way down to the Americas. And there's even evidence, genetic and all kinds of evidence, of even Alaskans having lineage to the Siberians. And there's Native American evidence of DNA and language and stuff like that connected with the Siberians. A lot of evidence of that, and a lot of these guys just want to buy into the pseudoscience. And I had to address this because I see this some indigenous podcast. I don't want to say their names again. I'm not into that, but I'm over here debunking certain beliefs and ideas that have no merit, no evidence. So I just, overheard them saying, we traveled to Egypt and all that stuff, and the evidence is that they found like supposedly cocaine in the mummies and different things like that. And so let me tell you this: the African gourd is was found in the Americas, but that does not mean that. But there's no evidence of people actually traveling from Africa, from Egypt, to the Americas and establishing themselves. No evidence. That's not how. That's not scientific. You can't assume that just because a certain plant or certain fruit or whatever has happened to be in one part of the world and in another part of the world. You can't assume that humans came along with that. So obviously the gourd, there's evidence that the gourd was dropped in the ocean and eventually came to the Americas, right? So so what archaeologists and anthropologists do is that you got to have overwhelming evidence to suggest anybody traveled anywhere. And there is evidence of Europeans coming through the northern parts of Canada prior to Cristobal Colon, even Vikings as well. But without a doubt, there's always been indigenous people here, and most of them came through Siberia. And there's too much evidence to go into. I mean, there's a lot. And you got these guys like Vine Deloria Jr., denying all this. He was a scholar in his field and very respected for native philosophy and stuff like that, but he just embraced the pseudoscience, and I guess he was threatened to, he felt that if there's evidence of natives coming from other lands prior to being established in the Americas, then the Europeans will claim that the natives are immigrants, and therefore natives have no right to the land, right? And that's actually a fallacious argument. In my opinion, it doesn't even have to go that way. Like, to me, the original inhabitants have always been the indigenous people, even if they came from Siberia. Europeans came way later, And to say that we travel back and forth from Egypt and all that, that's just a bunch of pseudoscience there. There's no evidence of that. So you guys with these indigenous podcasts out here, you guys need to start giving people the right information, because you're just influencing people to believe in this nonsense. And it's just unfortunate. You're influencing people to believe in this stuff. There's actually a pretty good podcast that debunks a lot of this stuff. Let's see here. Try to think of it. Tales from, was it Aztlan or something like that? It's with Curly Tlapoyawa. Although I don't agree with everything he says, but him and another historian, Curly's, I think he's an archaeologist as well. But he has a little podcast on YouTube. You could just debunking the whole transatlantic pseudoscience and all that. And it's unfortunate that you got some of these so-called Mexicas out here buying into this new age Afrocentric pseudoscience, and the basis of this is actually white supremacy. white supremacist pseudoscience, and then it just kind of repackaged itself as Afrocentrism, New Age, and some of these natives embraced some of that garbage, you know. But if you claim that you're all about observation and science, so the evidence points that we came through Siberia, and we're obviously related to the Asian people as well, the Siberians and all them. So a lot of us indigenous people are all related to them. You know, we come from there. You guys don't like that, but it's the truth. You know. Um, Later on, like yeah, you know, during the slave trade, and actually, Africans were not here. They weren't here prior to Cristobal Colon. Um, Most Europeans were not here prior to Cristobal Colon. Um, but there was some Vikings and some Europeans that are coming. You know, that came established themselves like shortly and took off. They were ran out because of the indigenous. They were fighting with the indigenous, kicked them out. The ones in towards northern Canada and stuff like that. Um, but and they say through South America there may have been Polynesians that came through. That was way later though, after the fact. Um, but yeah, you got these guys, you know, they embrace all this pseudoscience. Um, and there was actually, I was exposing this a long time ago, back in the 90s in a lot of Mexica circles. And I don't understand why it came back to basically infiltrate our our you know, so-called circles out here, and I'm surprised that people still believe in this nonsense. You know, it was me and quite a few others on a lot of these Mexica platforms back in the day. We were debunking this stuff, this pseudoscience and everything. But then you got these guys who come on with these podcasts and everything, who are not very well educated in the field, although they claim they are. They claim they got this sacred knowledge and they talk to all the elders and this and that, and a lot of a lot of the you got to question stuff like that, because some of these so-called elders are either self-appointed or they sometimes even embrace a lot of pseudoscience and new age stuff. That's what I've some of these so-called elders have even became Freemasons. So I'm not dissing all the elders out there. There's some elders that do have wisdom, but you have to have a critical mind as well and not accept everything said by certain elders. You know, I see some elders. I came across elders that were teaching some stuff that I didn't agree with, and you know, pushing this whole Atlantis nonsense and uh, all this stuff. So, anyways, be careful out there. You know, the science says that we came from Siberia and we traveled down through the Americas. You know, and we didn't directly come from Africa. We didn't directly come from Europe. We didn't, you know, I mean, we're not Greeks, we're not Romans, we're not Egyptians, we're not Afro-Phoenicians, right? We're not Chinese. Um, we're not ancient Hebrews. What else? I mean, I could go down. We're not ancient aliens. I could go down the list, man. It's just ridiculous, you know. It's just so much nonsense out here that these Mexica, you know, guys start believing in and everything, and you know, you guys need to really go study what pseudo archaeology is. And if you claim, oh, that's the white man's, he's trying to not, he's trying to hide the truth. Well, the white man is the one that first came up with all that pseudoscience. So why don't you dismiss that one as well? Actually, there's smarter white men later on who finally realized that these pseudo white men have no evidence of their early beliefs, and these other white men who later came on, in the field of archaeology, started re-examining early archaeologists and their pseudoscience were created by white men, right? And these the new school of thought came along and examined if there was evidence of any of this pseudoscience, and pretty much demolished and debunked all this pseudoscience. So the scientific way is, if you don't have evidence of it, then it's not, there's no basis for that, and it's not, and real scientific evidence is not, oh, just because you find a picture of an indigenous guy painted in black, that does not show that, oh, he's a black man, right? I see some of these Afrocentrics, they look at some of the glyphs or codices and they say, oh, look at, he look at, that's a black man right there, he's all painted in black, right? It's just ridiculous, man. That's what happens when you're not trained in archaeology and anthropology and everything. But let's see here. The later schools of thought in archaeology, it's not just white men now. It's other people of color who are archaeologists too, and there's Mexican ones too as well, who came out and pretty much examined and debunked a lot of this pseudo archaeology. And so it's not just white men, right? It's also other people of color who are archaeologists and anthropologists. So, anyways, man, don't believe all that nonsense, all that hype and everything. Um, how's it going, Mister Phil Fox? Hey, I'm glad you're here, man. I didn't know you were watching my videos, anything, but it's a long time no see, man. Yeah, Mr. Phil Fox is indigenous as well, and he knows a lot about pseudoscience and pseudo archaeology as well, man, and especially this whole Hebrew Israelite stuff, and um, but yeah, man, yeah, wait, he's I remember he was exposing the whole belief that the natives here were originally Hebrew. Man, it's just all these weird beliefs, and there's always gonna be new beliefs coming in, but you gotta stick to the evidence, stick to the facts, man. That's what it's all about, and that's it's just being a reasonable person, the evidence is there. Anyways, my phone is dying now, but I gotta get going. You guys have a good day, and I'll probably continue this later another time. All right, see you guys later.